At first, meshing war with horror sounds like overkill. Aren't bombs, tanks, atomic weapons, and a never-ending stream of bullets already frightening enough? However, combining these genres can work surprisingly well. The following entries elevated the scares by throwing in all sorts of aliens, zombies, and ghouls. I'm Sean Ferrick for What Culture Horror, and here are 10 underrated war horror movies. Number 10, Sauna. It's easy to mistake Sauna as a spoof, considering it revolves around an evil bathhouse. Goofy premise aside, there's nothing funny about this 16th century war drama. Shortly after the Russo-Swedish War ends, brothers Nutt and Eric are tasked with marking out the borders of their new kingdom. After killing a peasant and leaving his daughter to die, the siblings abandon their mission and head to a sauna in the marsh, hoping to wash away their sins. Upon entering the remote spa, Nutt and Eric find themselves tormented by a hostile phantom. What makes Sauna unnerving is how it's hard to tell what's real and what isn't. Not only is it told in a non-linear fashion, it's obvious the brothers had major issues before setting foot in the steamy chamber. When the bathhouse intensifies these insecurities, it's not clear at first whether they're wrestling with their subconscious or if they're legitimately being haunted. It may be a psychological drama as much as it is an outright horror, but Sauna will leave anyone rattled due to how effectively it explores guilt, sin, and redemption. Number 9, Outpost. Outpost opens with a group of mercenaries hired by a mysterious benefactor to locate a World War II bunker in the woods. The facility resides in no man's land, so it's considered a suicide mission. However, Merc leader DC believes it'll be smooth sailing once they crack open the bunker. But after discovering the terrifying secrets lurking within, DC realizes his men were safer in the active war zone. This British horror sucks you in straight away with its gritty action, which is enhanced by superb cinematography and sharp editing. DC and his squad come across like they're not fazed by bloodshed, since they've already had their fill of it. For this reason, it's deeply effective to see the tough-as-nails soldiers fall to pieces once they step foot in the bunker. Even though Outpost could have been by the numbers, it's riveting from beginning to end thanks to the lingering mystery, pulse-racing action, and well-rounded characters. Number 8, Orangikan. Indonesian creature feature Orangikan centers around two WW2 prisoners, Japanese soldier Santo and British infantryman Bronson. When the pair are left stranded on a remote island inhabited by aquatic beasts, they must unite to stay alive. Even when Saito and Bronson band together, it's obvious the war has hardwired their minds to view one another with unbridled hatred. But as the danger increases, the duo's personal issues slowly deteriorate, causing them to form a genuine friendship. Another aspect of Orangikan that deserves much appreciation is the fight choreography. Whether the human characters are pummeling each other or the monsters, every brawl is packed with visceral action and tight editing, so every punch, bite, and slash looks painful. Then there's the monsters themselves. They may give off Creature from the Black Lagoon vibes, but these fishmen are creepy as hell thanks to their animalistic screams and erratic movements. It might have got somewhat lost in the shuffle, but Orangikan is well worth seeking out. Number 7, P. Mac. Despite being Thailand's most successful film, P. Mac didn't leave much of an impact anywhere else, and that's a pity since this gem is busting at the seams with creativity. The film opens with Mac being forced to leave his pregnant wife, Nak, after being drafted into the Burmese-Siamese War. Upon his return, he hopes to settle down with his family, but after rumors swirl around the village of a supernatural force living among them, Mac's friends begin to suspect Nak is a ghost. Although it's tricky to juggle horror and war in the same movie, the filmmakers went all out, throwing in comedy, folk horror, paranormal horror, romance, and slapstick. Even though P. Mac could collapse under all its ideas, every element works in perfect harmony. P. Mac is also skillful at transitioning from a genuinely frightening moment to a perfectly executed joke and back, without compromising the horror or comedy of either. If you ever wanted to watch a farcical rom-com ghostly war movie, yeah, and let's be honest, who hasn't, P. Mac is worth tracking down. Number 6, Valley of the Dead. In this underrated horror comedy, nationalist captain Jan Lozano is arrested during the Spanish Civil War. As the Republicans lead Jan to his encampment, they are attacked by zombies. Similar to Night of the Living Dead, the ensemble must put their differences aside to combat a common and undead foe. Of course, the tension between them never wavers since these soldiers know they have to go back to killing one another once the zombie threat is disposed of. And with Nazis thrown into the mix, the situation goes from bad to worse to absolute hell. Despite the laugh-out-loud moments, the horrors of war are never underplayed in Valley of the Dead. Moments of levity are often followed by a grisly sequence or an effective jump scare, which is sure to catch viewers out since they've let their guard down. Overall, Valley of the Dead is absolutely worth a look as it maintains a fine balance between horror and humor, avoiding the usual zombie cliches and concluding with an uber-violent showdown that should leave gore fanatics smiling from ear to ear. Number 5, R Point. Set during the Vietnam War, R Point begins with a South Korean base receiving a radio transmission from a missing platoon. Lieutenant Choi leads the rescue mission, hoping to receive an honorable discharge if he's successful. While advancing to their destination, Choi's troops stumble upon a sacred temple, which catches the attention of some disgruntled spirits. Although many of Choi's troops are flawed, They're thoroughly explored, so they never come across as cardboard cutouts who are just there to rack up the kill count. Each of the men is fleshed out, which makes it more hard-hitting when they are being possessed by the insidious specters. Watching this Korean horror isn't just touching, but conflicting, since the bewitched soldiers are compelled to slaughter one another. As a result, the audience will be praying a character will be snuffed out, even though they were cheering them on a few minutes prior. It may be lacking in the gore department, but our point remains utterly nerve-wracking thanks to the eerie atmosphere and the ensemble's stellar performances. Number 4. Below. Helmed by the almost director of Alien 3, David Twohy, Below features a World War II submarine commander, Bryce, who's tasked with retrieving soldiers from a sunken ship. The survivors act deranged, which Bryce assumes is due to oxygen deprivation or shell shock. But after a series of unexplainable malfunctions and mysterious deaths occur, Bryce begins to believe a paranormal entity is among them. Much like Twohy's previous work, Pitch Black, Below implements the antagonist sparingly and instead emphasizes atmosphere, claustrophobia, and conflict between the inner ranks. The ghost rarely appears, to the point where it's difficult to make out what it looks like, amplifying the tension exponentially. When the supernatural elements are introduced, Below feels like it might turn into a schlocky thriller. But after revelations surrounding the spooky visitor are uncovered, it becomes evident the story is more complex than it initially seemed. There's also a clever twist that's so unexpected that it encourages viewers to watch Below again now they have all the facts. Even though Below sank to the bottom of the box office upon its release, this psychological drama deserves to rise to the top. Number 3. Werewolf 2018. Contrary to what the title suggests, 2018's Werewolf contains no wolf-like shapeshifters howling at the moon. Instead, Adrian Panic's heartbreaking drama follows a group of boys liberated from a Nazi death camp. The children reside in an abandoned palace, believing they'll soon be reunited with their families. But after SS officers release feral hounds into the area, the kids realize they'll be ripped to shreds if they leave the building. As they run out of food, water, and supplies, the group acknowledge their only choices are to run or fight. Even though kids versus dogs doesn't sound like the most sensational pitch ever, Werewolf is surprisingly poignant. The tension is elevated every time the children are in danger, since they're already having endured the worst experience imaginable and are close to getting their own lives back. Going in blind, some may be disappointed to learn this war drama contains no actual werewolves. However, if you give it a chance, you'll see this unappreciated flick has plenty of bite. Number 2. Men Behind the Sun. The World War II drama explores a Japanese army based in Unit 731, where medical experiments were performed on Chinese and Soviet prisoners, often leading to mutilation and death. Frankly, it's challenging to know where to start when breaking down Men Behind the Sun's barbaric content. It contains scenes of a cat being eaten alive by rats, a woman's arms melted down to the bone, and a child having his organs removed while he's awake. As hard as it is to believe, that's the tame stuff. Since these torturous sequences only get worse, nobody should be judged for switching the film off preemptively. Worst of all, Men Behind the Sun is based on a true story. Even though historic works tend to exaggerate details for the sake of drama, little had to be embellished here. Although plenty of war horrors involve ghosts, zombies, or demons, Men Behind the Sun highlights how human beings can be more terrifying than any monster. Number 1. The Painted Bird. Based on Jerzy Kosinski's novel of the same name, The Painted Bird centers around a Jewish boy who does what he can to survive alone during World War II. In this black and white drama, the young lad witnesses the death of his aunt, the burning of his home, the hanging of a man, and the sexual assault of a woman. As heart-wrenching as that all sounds, these traumatic incidents occur in the first act of this 169-minute film, and yet these travesties are nothing compared to what the boy endures later. What makes this folk horror so unsettling is how every ghastly image is rooted in history. These haunting incidents didn't just occur, but were witnessed and experienced firsthand by the most innocent souls, including our young protagonist. Any fleeting moment of hope and happiness is quickly dashed, leaving the child with no safe haven. Although zombies and vampires are creepy to some, they can't compare to watching a boy having his purity and chastity stripped from him against his will. As remarkable as The Painted Bird is, there are few who have the stomach or the will to sit through it in its entirety. Thank you very much, folks, for watching along. I hope you enjoyed that. Look after yourself till I talk to you again. Please follow us on the various socials. We're at What Culture Horror, and I am at Sean Ferrick. A very happy new year to you. Thanks very much.